God has always required His people to be like Him. And because we're made after His image, that's exactly why we have to love one another and love the world and care for our neighbor and even care for our enemies. The Pharisees and the chief priests and the scribes had twisted God's word that He had given to Israel out of context. Consequently, they were acting more like sons of Satan than sons of God. That's what Jesus calls them, you remember, because they were rebelling against God, following their own opinions, their own ideas of good and evil, rather than what God had revealed to them. And so here He's seeking to set it straight, set everybody straight. This is what you've heard, He says sometimes. Here's what the truth is. And He affirms a righteousness that far exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. So I want to look at this passage we read. And it begins with a very familiar passage. You hear it all the time. It's almost as famous as John 3:16. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. We're told that over and over again, even though nobody knows what that means, or at least they think they know what it means. It means if you punch me, I get to punch you, only harder. That's the rule. If you break my tooth, I get to break all of your teeth. You know, that's the way people view it. And of course, that is not at all what God intended by this law. This is called the lex talionis. It's given to us in Exodus 21 and in Leviticus 24. And it had a couple of purposes. It was first to be a rule for judges, to make sure that their judgments, their punishments that they meted out for crimes, for whatever the dispute was, were just. They weren't too harsh, or they weren't too lenient. So if a man hit me and broke my tooth, you couldn't kill him for that. He didn't commit murder, he broke my tooth. So you have to give him a punishment that's equivalent to a broken tooth. Something that meets the crime. The punishment ought to fit the crime. And so in the Bible, if you steal something, God doesn't say, cut his hand off. That's Islam. Islam is cruel and heartless. It has no compassion. There's no mercy there. And so you just cut your hand off. That's not the penalty God says. God says, no, make the guy that stole something pay double back. Now that's a just punishment. So if you steal my car, you got to give me an equivalent car and then give me the price of another one. That way crime doesn't pay. Today crime pays all over the place because you steal my car, you go to jail, and I have to pay for you there, and I lost my car. So I don't have anything. I've been taken advantage of twice. That's not just punishment. The Bible shows us how to do it, and this law was for that purpose. But many in Jesus' day understood it just like people in our day do. They saw, if you do something to me, I get to get you back. And that's the way people read it today. It's wrong. That's the basis of all the gang wars. That's the basis for family feuds. The Hatfields and McCoys and every other family feud that's been going on for hundreds of years, some of them. That's the reason why nations relate to one another like they do. They misunderstand this law.